to the Financial Wellness Hour. I am your host, Hirsch Serman, and I am happy to have you join us today on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. This show is for those who want to learn more about creating financial wellness, and we will be looking at different life cycles. We're going to explore them both financially and emotionally, because personal finances are more about the emotions associated with your finances than the finances themselves. Although we may be fairly general in our discussion, we would love to hear from you, and we'd love to make it more personal and relevant. So please call in. You can reach me through my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial, or you can post your comments and questions on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever else you may be listening. So have you ever been in a rush, got to get somewhere real urgently, and then you got to ask yourself, oh no, where are my keys? I could have sworn I left them somewhere, right? The same place as yesterday, but they're just not there. There are so many demands on us every single day, whether it's our kids, work, friends, family, social obligations, whatever it is. We are bombarded with claims on our time constantly. At the best of times, keeping up with everything, keeping it all in order and organized is a challenge. When you go through a divorce, or any kind of life cycle for that matter, it can be that much more chaotic and stressful. Even the most disciplined people and the most organized person can be in disarray when it comes to these kind of things. For some, being organized comes naturally. For the rest of us, well, not so much, I guess. But today we have the panacea of all ills for being disorganized. There's no pressure. We have Michelle Sarao joining us today to help us learn how to prioritize, organize, simplify our lives. Again, no pressure. Seriously, it is my privilege to have Michelle join us today to share her experiences and her insights in how to help us prioritize, organize, simplify our lives. Michelle, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Hirsch, for having me. And yeah, and you say no pressure, but that word panacea is like in bright lights. So I'm going to do my best here.
I have full confidence. I would not have used that. And sorry, that's why I keep dog treats, as we were speaking about, so that when she goes off, I have no doubt you will be able to share a lot of insights that people have just not thought about in the past. And that's always a good thing. Before we get to those, I'm going to ask if you can share a little bit about your background. How did you get into the business? A little bit like that, so people see where you're coming from.
Sure. So this is very much an ending point for me, a destination of lots of different things that I've done, both personally and professionally in my life. So I am a child of divorce. I have an education background. I also am a professional organizer, which I've had a business for about 15 years or so, working in homes and small businesses, helping people organize. I went through a divorce myself about 6 years ago. I have 3 children who are now 15, 20, and 22. I have 50-50 custody, which I always like to mention because that does allow me to have the perspective of seeing how the logistics work when kids go back and forth. And so I felt that I was able to, post-divorce, blend my personal life as someone who's divorced with kids and my professional life as someone with an education background, understood, what kids need, and then the professional organizing background, and put it all together and help people who were transitioning from the one home to 2, oftentimes whatever that looks like, because as we all know, every situation looks completely different. So I found this space where I thought I would be able to help. And that's how I arrived where I am today. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a lot of those pieces as we go forward, I'm sure. But another thing I'm sure all the people listening have said to themselves is that they're going to hold on to something, whatever that something is, and maybe they will need it in the future. They're going to use it. And so they'll put it on a shelf, or, it's a box in your basement. that's kind of been sitting there for 5, 10, 15 years, maybe even moving again and wondering whether you should take it, right?
Yeah.
Why do people hold on to things in general? And why during a divorce can it be so much harder to part with stuff?
Yeah, that's like the first stop, really, in a lot of people's, journey to becoming organized during and after divorce. So, in general, people's stuff, their physical items that they store in their homes, they represent all kinds of different things. They represent their goals, their dreams for the future. Maybe you've seen something on TV that you think you're going to, learn or take up or start building, and you go out to the store or you order online, and now you've got all kinds of different things to build, for a hobby, for all these things, and you've got those things, and maybe it's not as exciting as you thought it was going to be once you start doing it, but yet you've accumulated all of the quote unquote stuff. And especially this past year and a half of so much at home time, people have accumulated quite a lot of stuff in hopes of becoming like the next great, scrapbooker, or taking up, the drums and all of these stuff that goes with it. So then you take that and you multiply it by the number of people in your household, and that's a lot of stuff that you've accumulated. So there are those things that we accumulate. Then there are things that we have that are connected to memories that of our lives, of people, of places, events. We hold on to concert T-shirts and tickets and photos and all that kind of stuff. So all of the stuff that we own and hold on to is really a representative of who we are. What has our life looked like, and who do we strive to be? Like, that's where those hobbies come in. I'm going to take up yoga, and I'm going to become, this great yogi, or whatever it is that you're in the moment. Oftentimes in our culture, we're always being bombarded with try this, make this, do this. And, we're very susceptible to that. We're very vulnerable to that.
Right.
So it's hard to say, okay, well, let's go in and let's clear out all of these hopes that you had and these dreams. Also a lot of times people, wanted to pursue higher education and all of the stuff that goes along with that. It's hard to get rid of that stuff. A career change, all kinds of different things. So that's in general. So in divorce, it's even more difficult sometimes to let the stuff go, because it's not, it represents, your happily ever after. It represents the hopes and dreams you had for your marriage, for your life with, if children are involved, what your family life looked like. Nobody, as you know, gets married and says, oh, you know what, when I get divorced, ... we don't ever think like that. So it's really hard to let go of the dream, to let go of those goals and identity of yourself as a married person. To let go of some of the stuff is really, really difficult. It's a process in divorce, connected with loss, connected with grieving, and oftentimes connected with denial. But like, we like to always flip the coin and say it's also a tremendous opportunity for letting go of what no longer serves you, for a clean slate, for a fresh start, for your new life. So once people can get past that grieving stage, if in fact there isn't always, it really is a beautiful opportunity.
And you and I have offline before this spoken about how that's an opportunity. And, as people hold on, I guess, to the past, they can really think more in some ways, what do they want to create for the future? That can still be the memories and still be all the things that you spoke about. I guess maybe it brings a little bit of comfort and security sometimes to hold on to those. I think in the same way, taking the opportunity you're speaking about, and being able to liberate yourself and really have this openness to filling, the void of what was there now with, new opportunities, new excitement, that in itself should be somewhat exciting for people as well. I think, the other thing that I see on a financial side, maybe not so much with things, is people are also, they permeated, I think, a little bit with this fear of scarcity and the unknown. And so maybe having something that has brought them comfort in the past, even though it may have been way in the past, might sometimes bring some confidence, security to them as well, I think, maybe.
Right, for sure. And that's why oftentimes people, when I start to work with someone, they're a little bit anxious and fearful, and they sort of think like, oh, well, are you going to make me throw away everything? And of course, the answer is no, but what I like to do, of course, he never barks, and now he's sorry about that.
No problem.
There are ways to contain things, to pick like a container of some sort, and say you can keep some of the memories, but you're not going to keep everything. That's right. Balance that I like to instill in people. Let's go through your things, and what do you think are you reasonably going to work on? Let's say, And
when you're working with men and they keep those concert tickets, you can say, but you've got the 20-year-old T-shirt. You don't need the tickets kind of thing. You don't need all of it, right?
Right.
So, and I'm one of those that has the 20-year-old T-shirt, I will say.
Right.
I'm going to ask, how do you help people overcome this, for lack of better wording, overwhelming feelings sometimes? How do you help them move forward? And there's multiple areas of that, right? There's your physical space, there's your time management, there's kind of the logistics of your life. How do you keep them moving forward? And I think it's not just you helping them move forward, but teaching them how they themselves can move themselves forward.
Right. And there's a great picture that I wish I would have brought to show you. It's a picture of a woman, an up close face, and she's got all these stickies of all these different things going on. It's just a face picture. And so many people during divorce just feel like there are so many categories of things, kids, work, divorce, parents, all kinds of different things that are going on in their head, and they cannot get it out. So as far as helping people to overcome that overwhelm of how do I move forward? Like, I know what I need to do, but I'm paralyzed, and I do see that a lot. So the first thing that I say to people, even before, and this is an assignment that I give people before we even start working together, between the first time we speak and the first session that we do, I said, download your brain, get everything out of your brain and onto paper, onto an email, onto a document, whatever it is, and send it to me, right? Give it to me. Let me hold on to it for you. Once it's out of your head, people often find, I would say 99.9% of the time, that people find this exercise super helpful, because it's no longer in their head swimming around. They're detached from it. And now that there's not an emotional piece of it anymore, now it's just the facts. I need to clean out my closet. I need to do this. So that's the first step. And then I'm a big advocate of creating a plan, going forward. We're not just going to walk into your basement and just go. There needs to be a plan. There needs to be, whether or not you're working with a professional or whether you're doing it yourself, you need to break down the tasks. You need to prioritize what's going on in your life, what's keeping you up at night, right? Pick one of those things and focus on one project at a time. Take that one project and break that down into bite-sized pieces, right? So if you've got a whole basement that seems totally overwhelming, you're not going to go, or maybe you are going to go and start to try to tackle it yourself. And then very quickly, you're going to become frustrated and you're going to give up and throw in the towel and go watch TV or go for a walk or do whatever. And then you've done nothing. So breaking it down means, okay, I've got a linen closet, say, that I need to, it's overflowing, it's spilling into my hallway. I need to go through it. Maybe it's going to take me 3 hours. Well, do I have 3 hours that I want to spend on that today? No, nobody wants to do that. So let's break that down, right? Can you spend 20 minutes today, put on some music and set your timer for 20 minutes and start in your closet and see how far you get. And you will be surprised what you can do in 20 minutes, right? And then you feel that kind of, it's like the wheels are sort of like moving forward. After those 20 minutes and your timer goes off, you can say to yourself, okay, do I feel like I want to continue? Maybe, I would say 75% of the time people are like, this is not so bad. And look how much progress I'm making. Right. And we'll do another 20 minutes, right? Or they can say, you know what, I've done what I've committed to doing. I can pat myself on the back and I can move on to something else. Maybe they don't have that more time to that day, but they've already started it. So in a week or two of 20 minutes, by the time you're done, you've got those 3 hours accumulated and your closet is done. So if they can start to see how you need to just, and this goes for not just these projects, this is a life, kind of,
right.
kind of mantra, so to speak, that works for a lot of things. Yeah.
So I like a lot of what you've said, and I'm going to put some of it in my words, I guess, but I think it's worth repeating. One of the things is, especially when we're going through a stressful life cycle like a divorce, we don't celebrate even the small wins or accomplishments that we have, and being able to become more organized in a time where your life is becoming less organized is something absolutely to be celebrating, in my opinion. I think that's one thing. What I like what you said as well, because if I try to tackle a major, like a basement with 3 hours, I'm going to get distracted because there's probably 10 things I got to do in my basement. But if I chunk it up and I say, I'm going to do 20 minutes now, I can focus for 20 minutes on one thing and know all this other stuff's got to get done, but ignore it for now because I know I'm spending 20 minutes. So I like that idea as well. The other thing that one of the things I love about the title of our show today of Prioritize, Organize, Simplify Your Life is a lot of my approach with clients is to prioritize, organize, and simplify. If you really understand what are your priorities, where do you want to go, it's much easier to accomplish those things and realize the other things. A lot of it is clutter, if I can use that word. And in this case, maybe not something to hold on to because it's not really bringing a lot to my life either. If you set up what are my priorities, what do I really need and want? I do it from a financial standpoint. You do it from creating, your haven from the stress of the world in your home, I guess, if I'm using my words, not yours there. But I think being able to understand what those priorities are, to be able to understand what to focus on, helps you to accomplish those wins that much more and that much easier as well.
100%. And when you are going through divorce, things are spinning like crazy in your head. And that's why the first thing I say is get it out of your head and onto paper where you can look at it in black and white, because oftentimes we catastrophize, not to say that things are great, but things oftentimes are much worse in our head than they are in reality.
Right. No, they absolutely are. I'm going to say we have probably about a minute and a half. I'm going to ask you one more question, try to sneak it in. What are the benefits of being organized? And I think we've touched on some, but I'm sure there's more. But whether it's before and preparing for a divorce, whether it's during the process and afterwards as well.
Oh gosh, that's not a minute question. Okay. So there's tons of benefits. There's tons of general benefits. And I'll run through those super quickly,
And we can pick up again after the break, if we need as well.
So I'll say in general, and then maybe we can pick up specifically with divorce. It reduces stress and anxiety off the bat. What's going on in your physical space is a direct reflection of what's going on in your mental space, 100%. It increases your self-confidence, because if you can show up for your life, for your work, for your personal life, and you know where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be, and you're showing up with what you've got, what you need for your work, for your kid's soccer game, whatever it is, you're just more self-confident. You just feel better. It's a feeling, it's not about a color-coded calendar or a beautiful bookshelf that looks great. It's about that feeling that you can show up and be competent and confident in your life.
I like that. And, I'm sure that being organized during a divorce may look very different to after. The focus of while you're going through a divorce might be just simply the myriad of paperwork that it takes and getting that, by the deadline and communicating to your attorney, let's say, what are your priorities and what would you like out of this? As opposed to afterwards creating that haven of your home that we were talking about, learning how to pay your bills or whatever it is. It can be very different at different times of the process. We're going to pick this up because I think this is a huge topic for people to understand, that things change and what they can benefit. And it sounds so trivial. Oh, I'm going to be organized and have my room neat. But there's so much more to it than that. There really is. I'm going to ask before we go to the break, though, if you can share how people can get in touch with you as well. What's an easy way? And then we're going to go to a break.
Sure. The easiest way to get in touch with me is on my website, which is www.divorce-rx.com.
Great. And we will be back right after the break. Thanks. Hello and welcome back to the Financial Wellness Hour. I am your host, Hirsch Serman. We are speaking with Michelle Sarao from Divorce Rx. I'm going to cover a couple of the things. We are in the middle of a topic. I want to come back to that, but some of the things that we've already covered through the show, why people hold on to stuff, and we all do it or all have done it. So obviously a very important thing to think through. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why it's harder sometimes during a divorce, let's say, to actually let things go, how the divorce can be so overwhelming and stressful, that why we hold on to it, the comfort that it brings or the memories that it has, but also the opportunity that this might bring for us to create new memories and create new opportunities like that. I love that you said, or the way you said, managing your physical space represents the way you kind of manage your mental space. I like that a lot. I thought that's very telling. And being more organized creates a lot of time management. It helps you to be more productive, and also helps you, give you things to celebrate some of those wins that sometimes we don't do. And as you said earlier, also, your stuff represents things. It's a reflection of our taste. It's a reflection of our experiences. So I think those are all very important as well. And I'm going to ask you to jump right back into the topic. You spoke generally about the benefits of being organized before, during, and after a divorce. I'm going to ask you to kind of now give us some of the more details that you had said you wanted to share with us.
Sure. So the last thing I want to say in general, as far as a benefit, is the saving of time and money when you're organized, because as far as time, and this actually does go toward money as well, the more things you have, the more time and the more money that you need to put into taking care of those things. And money, as far as saving money, being organized, when you don't know what you have, when you have so much stuff that you don't know what you have, you just went out to the store. I see it over and over again. People just went out to the store and get more. And you might have like 50 rolls of paper towels hiding behind something, or something that's even more, financially significant that you go out and you buy doubles of. So it really can save you money. And then the other saving money piece of it it's my big nemesis are storage units. I really hate those storage units, but people oftentimes, and I understand, people, especially going through divorce, are having to downsize. And I see people just get in a storage unit, and throwing stuff into it. Which again, I want to say I understand. But what I recommend to people with that is like, don't just throw it in and leave it there. Throw it in and say, you know what, in 3 months from now, when things are a little bit more settled, I'm going to go back because this is costing me money. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go through it and I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm going to, save that money because you're basically paying rent for your stuff.
That is a huge one, by the way. I love that. Just talking about like kind of buying doubles and wasting and things like that. The statistics I've read, if you are organized just in your groceries,
yep,
you know what's in your pantry. You kind of plan out what meals you're going to have for the week. You can save as much as 15% on your groceries, which, who doesn't want to save that kind of money for eating the same amount of stuff, right? And not having to throw out stuff and clean your fridge and all the rest that comes with that.
Right.
So I think those are huge and very beneficial topics to think through and get organized. And as you said, paying rent for your stuff. We're not happy paying our own rent check or our mortgage check half the time, let alone that it's sitting there. And then, as you said, it's stuff that sits there, you pay rent for it, and you probably forget half of the stuff that's in there anyway.
So more than that.
And I guess that's why they hit shows like that what's it, storage unit wars? I don't remember what it's called, but that's on your dime, I guess. So.
Yeah, kind of. So you asked me about what are those are sort of the general benefits. So what are the benefits specific to divorce?
Yes.
And this goes more to the after divorce, right? So once you are divorced or you're already separated and you're living in two separate households, it really improves your ability to keep all the balls in the air, because once you are divorced, you've got work, whether or not that's in or out of the house. Most times there are children involved, and there are new logistics. There's tons of new logistics. So there's a huge learning curve, right? So there's lots of balls in the air. So when you're organized, it allows you to do a better job keeping all of those new divorce balls, so to speak, in the air. And I think that the other pieces that come out of that is that it really improves your ability to parent alone now as a single parent. When you're more organized, and this does go to the physical space, which is also the stuff, when when your child's stuff is organized, when your stuff is organized, you can be ready, in the morning when you're getting your kid off to school. If you're organized, then they're going to feel like they are on top of their day better. So it's just you're doing a better job as a parent, and it's just you now, right? So it sometimes it gets easier when it's like that, but sometimes it's one less pair of hands. It can get more difficult and more challenging with the logistics, and then it also improves the co-parenting, actually. So when your schedule and your life and you are in a home that feels all organized, more organized. And this is yes, we talked a little bit about it not just being about, a beautiful, beautiful, like architectural digest ready, living. Right. But when you can come into whatever your sense of calm is, walking through the door and feeling this is your home and there's not clutter all over the place, that's going to set you up in a more relaxed and calm space when you come home from work, or as you're working in your home, or even if you're working only at home, right? So that will allow you overall to approach or receive communication from the other parent in a much more calm way, which is going to improve your co-parenting, which will not stress you out as much as if you are a mess and you don't know where anything is, and you don't know what day you're supposed to be where, and all of your stuff for work is crazy and disorganized. And then your ex comes to you and says, you know what, I need to be out of town for a meeting in 2 weeks, can you switch the schedule? And you're like, no, I can't do that. And and if you were organized and you knew what was going on in your own life, you might then be able to say, you know what, sure, no problem. And then that benefits you as well, because next time you've got a schedule change, right, they're going to be, more willing to do it, because they'll remember, oh yeah, they were able to help me out when I needed it, so let me reciprocate. So it just sets up a better co-parenting dynamic. And of course, that better co-parenting dynamic is going to benefit your children who sense all of that. They're going to sense things are, flowing better between my parents. So it's
And something I think you touched on, but I want to maybe elaborate a little bit more, is it allows you to be more present in your kids' lives and in your own life. You know, I think obviously, I think most people realize the kids that you have, their biggest precious gift that you can give them is your time, being present with them. When you're disorganized or you distracted or whatever it might be, you're not with them, and you're taking away from that. The other thing is being present for yourself, being able to do self-care. I think it talks to all the other things that you're saying as well, the co-parenting, all the rest that comes with that. I think that helps significantly. And I was one, I'll tell you, I tell people I'm this cold, heartless MBA, CPA, and I used to think it was like hippie weird stuff when you did self-care or yoga or meditate, and I am so bought into it. I actually want to try yoga, but I do all those other things, the meditation and all the rest. It really does change, and it helps you. It's almost like the momentum builds. As you do one thing, you have time for something else. As you bring that into your life, that organization has that ripple effect and that momentum that helps you become that much better in multiple areas of your life, not just the fact that you're living in a home that's nice and comfortable and serene and calm, which I think makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's a fabulous point. You're absolutely right. It is absolutely a ripple effect for sure.
Yeah, no one's saying you have to live in a museum type home, right? I mean, you can make it very comfortable and very easygoing without it, without having clutter. So, we can make it very, very comfortable. So how can working with a professional organizer like yourself help during a divorce?
Well, I think that it can allow people to get started, because I think that what I find is when you're going through the divorce, and we touched on this a little bit before, is people just do not know where to start. There's so many different things. So bringing in a professional, just like when you know that you're going to get divorced, the first thing you do is you ask your friends, hit Google, whatever. Who's your lawyer? Who's your financial person? You need a team of people, and nobody is usually brought in to deal with the stuff. But if you think about it, every single person going through divorce, the one commonality that they do have is that they're going to be changing their living situation in some form, right? Even if you're the person who's staying in the marital home, you're going to now be alone in the marital home, and your ex will be moving out with whatever they move out with. And oftentimes people are selling the home, downsizing, setting up a new home. I mean, 50% of the people getting divorced are moving out and setting up a new home. Right. So a lot of people just do not know. They don't know how to do it, because oftentimes within the marriage, the division of labor was such that one of the married couple handled all of the household stuff or most of the household stuff. And now the person that was not their main priority for whatever reason, they're kind of like dealing with all of the divorce stuff, dealing with work, dealing with their kids, assuming that there are kids involved. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I've got to go set up this whole household that my kids, by the way, want to come to. And that's no small task, especially if the other spouse is staying in the marital home where the kids have grown up and they're comfortable. Now the second parent who's moving out has to set up a home where the kids want to go. And that's challenging.
It's funny you say that, because I'm thinking back to when I moved into my house after my divorce, and I'm thinking, I didn't even know where to put the spices. That's just one item, in my entire house kind of thing, right? I mean, let alone the rest of the kitchen. I was like, how do I set up where my spices are to make it easy to cook? So take that and multiply it by whether it's 4 or 15 rooms or anywhere in between, right? There's a lot to do, a lot to adjust, and you're going through so much you're adapting so much already. Being able to set it up in a comfortable way that's welcoming for your kids, for anyone, and that you're comfortable in, that can be daunting for people, for sure.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the obstacles maybe someone would have with working with someone like yourself, and what are some things they kind of have to put aside in order to work with a professional organizer?
So I would say that, as we touched upon before, the letting go of the stuff. I think that people really have a big fear of what an organizer is going to tell them to get rid of. And a good organizer will not tell them to get rid of anything. They will help them to understand why they might want to get rid of things, and to help them to reframe their mindset so that they are then in the driver's seat and making the choices themselves. You know, am I going to tell you to get rid of like every letter that your grandmother wrote you? Absolutely not. But if you don't know where it is in your house, then you can't enjoy it in the way that you want to be. Just because you have it, it's like you had mentioned before, there's almost a comfort with it. But I like to encourage people to really know what they have, decide what they want to keep. Do you need it? Do you love it? Does it serve you? Does it enhance your life? To ask those questions. So I feel that people don't understand what the process is. People have some fear. So that could be an obstacle. And I think another obstacle that's interesting is people are embarrassed of what their homes look like. Every single person, before I start working with them, they say to me, I need to clean up my house before you come over. And I said, no, don't clean up your house before you come. Whatever's going on in your house, trust me, I have seen it all. And this is not about judgment. This is about helping you to help yourself. You know,
it's funny you say that. I remember when I was a teenager and my mom used to have a cleaning lady come over, and she would be like, I got to clean before the cleaning lady comes over. I'm like, I don't understand. You know, and I guess, the fact that somebody's calling you indicates automatically they know they need some help, right? So I can understand the embarrassment factor. You know, I've had people apologize to me because they don't understand or know their finances. I can't say I've really had anyone apologize to me to say, you know, I used to do the finances, but I don't know how to cook a meal or, you know, keep my house, right? I guess, though, you know, your house is a very personal thing. And so inviting somebody in itself can be a bit of an obstacle that you've got to overcome, especially if you're embarrassed, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Well, your house, your personal space is really a reflection of yourself. I mean, think about your car as an extension of your personal space. And how many times have you gotten into a car, someone's giving you a ride, and their front seat or their back seat's a mess, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me like swipe up everything and throw it into the trunk. I mean, it's embarrassing because right. So it's the same thing with the house. It's
like being back in college, right? And I don't think anyone of our age wants to be living like we were in college. So
no comment.
So why do people going through a divorce feel more comfortable working with you, somebody who's been through a divorce, rather than an organizer maybe who hasn't been through a divorce?
So I think that I love that question, because that's actually why I started doing this in the first place, was because I did feel like people would be more comfortable with me. And I think that there's two reasons. I think, first of all, going right back to what we were just talking about, the embarrassment, I think people feel more comfortable with me because I've been there, and, you know, I understand that you are a freaking mess, you know, in your head, and that's okay. And I understand that, and they feel less embarrassed in front of someone who's been through it. I feel like that's just a human nature thing, that people can feel more comfortable with others who have a shared experience.
Yeah, so, I can attest to that. There are times where, you know, when you meet a prospect, obviously you need to validate why they should work with you, right? So you talk about your credentials or your experience, or, you know, in my case, I'll bring up, I have a radio show sometimes, or, you know, whatever it is that you're talking about. And it doesn't seem to, you know, go far. And then all of a sudden you mention like, oh, you know, I've been through a divorce myself. That's a big reason why I do what I do. And all of a sudden there's this like connection and this kinship.
Yeah.
You know, and as we said earlier, every divorce is different, right? I mean, you live next to somebody with a similar home, similar amount of kids, similar cars, whatever it is, and it's a completely different divorce. Understanding all of that, there still seems to be this connection because they understand what you're going through. I think they get more comfortable just knowing that you understand, and that, you know, in some cases, because, you know, you may not be on top of your game going through a divorce with everything, that you may, you know, understand why they're not on top of their game, where other people may not be able to relate to that, I think, as well.
Exactly. And then the other reason is more of a practical reason, actually, is that as we're working together and as we're moving through the different rooms, things come up. For example, I was working with someone recently, and we were working in her bedroom and we came across some pictures of her ex-husband. And she said, oh, here's some pictures of him and his family, and I'm just going to get rid of those. And I said, hang on. I said, let's think this through, because, you know, you can take that approach. There's some options. You know, you can take the approach of just throwing away the pictures, or why don't you take the high road here, and why don't you designate a box in your house somewhere near the door of his stuff, because it was, in her case, it's a recent divorce. He moved out recently, and I'm divorced 6 years, and I'm sometimes still finding things that belong to my ex in the house. So I said, why don't you know, put the stuff that you're finding in this box. And when he comes to pick up the kids, I said, you can walk out and you can say very calmly, here, you know, I found these things. And what does that say, you know, and in front of your children, like, what's that message that you're sending?
Absolutely.
And it's not an antagonistic message. And most importantly, how does it make you feel about yourself, you know?
Right.
And that's a building, you know, it's starting the healing process in a lot of ways. So there are things like that I can sort of pick up on and offer options that people who have not been through it would never think of.
No, I like that a lot. And, you know, that's one of the things that I actually appreciate very much is when you work with people, you meet them with where they are, not, you know, oh, you're in a divorce, this is where you should be, right? You understand where they are, you get to know them. And then you look at that and you say to them, all right, let's work from here, and you move them forward, right? You also have different ways that people can work with you, right, to make it easy on them. And I'm going to ask you to touch on that because we are getting towards the end of the show. I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about somebody calls in, how do you move them forward maybe, or, you know, some of the options. I know that it's not just always a one-on-one that people have. They have other options. So I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about how you work with people.
Sure. So like you said before, when someone calls me, they already know they need help most times. So it's not a let's figure out if you need help. It's what help do you need and what's the best way to get it. And so I do offer a complimentary 30-minute kind of chat so we can get to know each other a little bit, and I can offer some suggestions. And, you know, it's got to be a comfortable situation. It's a one-on-one, very similar probably in your business, is you've got to make sure there's a personal rapport. It's a little bit like dating. Absolutely. Do you like the person enough to spend the time with them to do the work that you're going to do? And so they can take that half an hour to kind of get to know me a little bit more. And if they're still not sure, sometimes people will say, all right, let's start working. Sometimes people feel that they just need a push. So there's an hour where I call it a power hour. It's just a one-off organizing session that will get you started. And so we do that. But most commonly, like you said, people know they need help and it's not going to take an hour. So I do offer organizing packages in 3 and 6 sessions. And then the most recent offering that I do is an organizing group. And right now it's just for women. And each month we focus on a different room. So I work with, this is all virtual. The organizing sessions are, depending on location, either virtual or in person, but the organizing groups are all virtual. And it's women right now, it's up to 6 women who are going through or during or after divorce. And we work on one room together. And that is a way, you know, sometimes during divorce, there's lots of isolation. And this brings people out of isolation. And you, again, like we were just talking about, not only do you have my experience, you've got the experience of 5 other people who have gone through the same thing, that oftentimes it's, you know, one person will mention something that will resonate with someone else, will be able to learn from it and benefit from it. So I love the group dynamic. It's really fabulous.
Yeah, and I love that you're bringing people together who are going through a similar experience, which I think is so important as well, because we do tend to isolate. We do tend to get a little embarrassed that we're going through a divorce because we think I'm the only one going through something, you know, difficult right now, not realizing it's always, you know, a lot of people. Yeah. We do unfortunately have to wrap up. We've come to the end of the time, but I'm going to ask one more time if you can share how people can get in touch with you, and then we're going to have to move on and close out the show.
Sure. The best way to get in touch with me is on my website, which is www.divorce-rx.com.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for shedding light and sharing your insights, helping people kind of understand there is hope that this disarray does not have to stay. Even while you're going through the difficult challenges of a life transition, you can still move forward and you can still get organized. Too often we start a project like getting organized and we cannot stay the course. And this is why I recommend you speak to a professional like Michelle. I think she can really help you through it. Take the stress off yourself and prioritize, organize, simplify your life. I am Hirsch Serman, your host for the Financial Wellness Hour. Please reach out to me through my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial. You can reach out for questions to me or to Michelle Sarao, our guest today. And I look forward to you joining us in 2 weeks for our next show. Thank you so much. Cece, as always, thank you for putting this all together, my producer. And I look forward to the next show. Thank you.